following is an exclusive presentation of Jessup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio. Here we are on this Friday morning, 5th day of March. And Bob, we've got a special guest in the studio with us this morning.
Yes, we've been telling people Keith Higgins, district attorney, newly elected in the studio, first time since he won the election, 5 circuit, big circuit. So first of all, how's it been going? You've been in there for a little over 2 months now. Is that correct?
Yeah, about 2 months to the day. Been in there. The first work day was January 4th, and been hiring a lot of good people into the right positions. Built up the staff here in Wayne County to where we're going to end up with 3 full-time assistant DAs up here. A victim advocate, 2 legal assistants, got a receptionist in the office, and an investigator that's assigned to the Wayne County office and works here on a daily basis.
And who are these people, I see? Because, most people are familiar with who was there before, but they're all pretty much gone. Chad's gone, Helen's gone, John's gone, Jackie's gone. So who's... Wayne County is familiar with people, in the DA's office. So who's coming to anybody local, or who's going to be in the office?
Absolutely. Most of the people are local. We have Vanita Weatherspoon, who's here local, who I believe her husband coaches the football team here in Wayne County, or is one of the coaches, is a legal assistant. We have Brandy Bauer, who's the victim advocate that's local here. She worked for years with DFAX down in Glenn County and has come back home here to work in the DA's office. We have Shanata Paulk also, who's our receptionist there, that's local as well. Lieutenant Nick Ellis of the police department referred her to us, and we were very glad that he did that, and very happy to be able to hire her on. We have an investigator, Daniel Gray. He comes out of Waycross. He's years experience as an investigator. And we have Jonathan Miller that's come up from Glenn County that used to be an assistant DA years ago. We've hired Soteria Broadnecks out of Tift County to do our our violence against women cases under a federal grant that's over here full-time, and she has a lot of experience. And then we'll be having Mimi Himes, who is a longtime prosecutor with more than 20 years of experience, that's going to be coming down from Athens to be our deputy chief assistant DA here in Wayne County. I apologize for that.
Nope, no big deal.
My bad.
We always do that here on the air, just kind of the little brain things.
She'll be here in Wayne County. She'll be starting March 22nd. So those 3 attorneys, we're going to have another attorney hired on full-time that may be located here in Wayne County as well.
Do you just put the word out and then people respond?
Well, a lot of what I did is after I won the election, I basically shot emails out to all the DA's offices where the incumbent was defeated, and was able to get some folks that way. We were able to get our chief assistant DA Ian Heap out of Chatham County, who's a prosecutor with more than 20 years experience that way. Our human resources and budget person we got out of Chatham County as well. And then we were able to get the other ADAs through basically advertising on the Prosecuting Attorneys Council website and putting the word out that way.
You've had to do this for all 5 counties, is that correct? Or 4 counties that has offices?
Well, we have 4 offices in 5 counties. Right. We have Jeff Davis, Appling, Wayne, Glenn, and Camden counties, and 4 office locations. The only county in which we don't have an office is up in Jeff Davis. Our Baxley office covers both Appling and Jeff Davis. Pretty much the entire staff stayed in Jeff Davis County, and then we had about 3 employees stayed down there in Camden County.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of, let's say the assistant DAs, and they're the ones that try the case. I'm curious, the court docket's been backed up. No fault of you. Like I said, the state court has pushed everything back to the pandemic. Drug court and all that's still going on, but all the jury trials have been pushed back. But I'm just curious, we got a lot of murder cases on the docket. So how does a new DA come in, and with the new staff, how do you get updated on those cases? I mean, do you talk to the former prosecutors that had worked the case all this time, or how's it work?
Well, basically, when the new prosecutor comes in and they look at the cases with new eyes, talk to the investigating officer on that case, the case agent, if you will, on the case. We also always talk with the victim on that case as well as part of our victim witness assistance program. It's very important to include victims and their families in the process as well. But basically, you look at all the case, look at the case with new eyes. You take a look at that. You talk to the investigating officer, and you evaluate it on its merits.
So, like I said, we got out. When do you think the trials will begin? What's the latest from the Georgia State Court?
I believe we're going to have jury trials starting back up next month in April. Judge Scarlett is scheduling a couple of weeks of trials starting the last week in April down in Glenn County. And we're looking at, on the master calendar, having jury trials starting back up in Wayne County, if not before, shortly thereafter.
I think I talked to France the other day. She said the first jury trial is going to be a child molestation case. Apparently, they lost the transcript, so they have to have a new trial. You familiar with that?
I'm familiar that there is I'm familiar that case does exist.
How do they lose the transcript?
It's an old case. Things happen. It's a human system with humans in it. People make mistakes. So in terms of how that happened, I don't know. I just know that's the case. Soteria Broadnex, who's here in the Wayne County office, has a handle on that, has reviewed that case file, has conferred with our chief assistant DA, Ian Heap, about that, and so they're on top of that matter at this point.
And I mentioned we got many murder cases on, so how do you prioritize which murder case is going to come first? We've got several, so you're familiar with those, I'm sure, but is there a pecking order when they'll come, or how does that work?
Well, you look at basically the age of the case. You also look at which cases there are defendants incarcerated in our jail here in Wayne County, and you try to prioritize those that people are incarcerated first, because when people are in jail, it's costing the taxpayers money on top of everything else. And you also look at the age of the case as well, because you want to try to get those cases to court as soon as you can.
And if you just joined us, Keith Higgins, new DA's in the studios with us. Everybody's familiar with the situation with the Jessup Police Department. We know the GBI has done an investigation into that's been on your desk for now several days, almost over a week. So the question is, are there going to be criminal charges filed by the DA's office?
Well, we're still reviewing that matter. We took an initial look at the investigation. We have received the case file from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. After we received that, we asked the GBI to do some additional investigation, and we've gotten those results back now, but we're still in the process of reviewing that.
Any chance you'll make a ruling before a week from Monday? Because a week from Monday they got their grievance hearing. So do you think there'll be a ruling before then, or a decision before then?
I can't really put a timeline on it. It came on 2 CDs, and it's a pretty voluminous file, so I can't make any promises on a timeline in terms of when we'll finish our review.
I understand there's been a lot of interviews done in that case.
There's been some interviews done in the case, and we're looking at all those, and as well as any other evidence that's been presented to us.
Another case I want to ask you about is this arson case on the docket. William Rozier, 4 counts, arson in the first degree. I talked to the investigating officer, and I talked to the fire chief, Josh Huffman. He was the first firefighter on the scene. He says a clear case of arson. Shane Taylor, his lead investigator with the State Fire Marshal Office, said he's 110% surprised that the case would be dropped, but I understand the case has been dropped. Can you explain why it's been dropped?
Well, it has been dismissed and was dropped based upon an evaluation of the evidence in that particular case. Arson cases, unless you catch somebody in the act of setting the fire, are circumstantial evidence cases. And the level of evidence that's required in order to get a conviction is that the evidence has to be so strong that it excludes every other theory except the guilt of the accused. And looking at the available evidence in that case and the standard that must be met in order to get a conviction, it was our opinion that the evidence did not rise to that level. We felt that we could not prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and it would have been a waste of taxpayers' money and court resources to have gone to trial with that case.
You didn't even talk to the investigator before you dismissed it. So I don't understand that. How do you not talk to Shane? I mean, he found out from me that the case had been dropped. So
well, an assistant DA initially dismissed the case, and once that was brought to my attention, I reached back out and did talk to the investigator, Shane Taylor, about that matter. I also talked with the investigator.
The assistant DA from the previous administration?
It was from my administration, and that's a mistake, and that the assistant DA was discussed with him, and I don't anticipate will happen again. But I reached back out and looked at it and evaluated it on my own after the fact, reached out to Investigator Taylor, also talked with the expert witness that the defense had come up with and had a report on it as well. His name's Rich Meyer. Based upon all of that and the circumstances and other circumstances and facts in the case, which include the fact that that the accused did not file an insurance claim, made a decision that it was insufficient evidence to prove guilt.
So you're saying Josh Huffman and Shane Taylor are wrong, or?
Well, the standard that they apply in terms of making an arrest is different than that which the standard that's required to get a conviction in a case. To make an arrest, the standard is probable cause, whether or not there's reasonable grounds to believe that a person committed a crime. The standard to get a conviction is much higher than that. It requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And like I said, in a circumstantial evidence case such as this, it requires that the evidence be so strong that it includes every other theory except the guilt of the accused. If there's any other possible explanation for the fire, there isn't going to be a conviction. So based upon the legal standard that we have to follow in order to get a conviction, our decision was that the evidence did not rise to that level. In many criminal cases, there's enough to make an arrest, but not to get a conviction.
He wasn't only arrested, he was indicted, though. He took it to the grand jury, and 25 people listed the evidence and indicted him. So it wasn't just an arrest, it was an indictment.
Well, I understand that as well. And once again, you see cases null prost after indictment. I wasn't involved in the process of presenting it to the grand jury and making the decision that it should be presented to the grand jury. That was done before I took office. And so I have the opinion that I have based upon my evaluation of the evidence, and the standard before presenting it to a grand jury in my administration will be the same as that which I just stated. Is there sufficient evidence? Is there sufficient credible evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? If there is, we'll take it to the grand jury and we'll indict and prosecute it. If there's not, we won't.
You see other cases on the court docket being null prost?
I haven't looked at all those cases. We've got a voluminous court docket, as you may very well know. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Once again, if we look at a case and we feel there's insufficient evidence to prove guilt, we will not go to trial, because to do that would be basically a waste of taxpayers' money and court resources and the time of all the people that are coming to court, including the jurors.
And you just mentioned you got 5 offices. So how do you decide where you're going to be at one certain time and what cases you take? I mean, you're the DA, so
yeah.
you have priority on cases you want, or how's that work?
Well, the district attorney is the administrator of the office, and I'll be trying very few cases, quite frankly. The front line in the trenches prosecutors are going to be the other assistant DAs. The way we've set up the DA's office is I have a chief assistant district attorney that is directly over each of the deputy chiefs. We have deputy chief assistant DAs that are directly responsible and supervise each of the 4 offices on a daily basis. We got a chief assistant DA that's over them.
And who is that?
The chief assistant DA is Ian Heap. He came down from Chatham County. He was working as a prosecutor that was assigned to their counter narcotics task force up there.
Okay, and does he work mainly out of the Brunswick office?
He is currently working in the Wayne County office.
Wayne County office? Okay, good.
For about the last week and a half, I was personally in the Wayne County office managing it because because of manpower reasons, there needed to be somebody in charge of this office, and so I was up here. Ian was down in managing the Glenn County office. We had Jan Kennedy, who is up in Baxley, and we have Robert German down in Camden County. We hired on a new deputy chief assistant DA out of Gwinnett County, who's got more than 20 years experience as a prosecutor, by the name of Nigel Lush. He came on board Monday of this week, March 1, to take over supervision of the Glenn County office. Once that happened, I was able to move Ian up to Wayne County. So I wanted to have somebody in charge of every office at all times. That's why I've been up here for about the last week and a half.
So Ian is not only in charge of the Wayne County office, he's also your chief, your right-hand man in a sense.
Yes, and that's our current situation. On March 22nd, Mimi Himes will be coming down from Athens to take over the Wayne County office. So we're still in a bit of a flux, putting people in positions right now, wanting to make sure that all the officers are covered. So we're moving people around to make sure people are in charge, the right people are in charge while we're doing this still in a transitional phase.
Yeah, a lot to put together in a couple of months.
Absolutely.
It was a pandemic back in the court log way back, so, with defense attorneys too, the census is, or the feeling is that when it does crank back up, you're going to see a lot of pleas to try to get that court docket back to where it's a manageable court docket. Did you have that kind of sense too?
Well, I think once we have jury trials and the possibility of people being taken to trial, that a lot of people will then start entering pleas, because there's a realistic possibility of going to trial if they don't. And so I feel that may very well happen. So time will tell what transpires. During the pandemic, we've still been trying. Of course, we've only been on board here about 2 months to the day. We've still been trying to resolve cases as best we can, despite the pandemic. We currently have a backlog of about 4,000 cases circuit-wide.
Wow.
And so one of the things...
you look at that and say,
well, you can, but you might have those types of moments. But then what you look at is, as one of my favorite sayings is, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
There you go. So we're going to chip away at it. One of the things that we're trying to do that is, if you got more mouths eating, then you're going to get rid of that elephant a lot quicker. So one of the things we're doing is we're going to have more full-time ADAs on board, and being able to chip away at that backlog. When we hire on fully under our current budget cycle, we'll have 14 full-time ADAs circuit-wide.
Several years ago, they had the same situation, but what they did is the judges decided to have court just almost daily. I mean, they just had a lot more court. So do you see that a possibility?
That's a possibility. In Glenn County, for example, Judge Scarlett's going to have back-to-back trial weeks starting April 26th. So to try to move some of those cases, it looks like we're going to try to start out with some of the more serious cases down there. Judge Harrison has a couple cases that are specially set. I think one of those cases may be scheduled to go to trial the week of April 16th. So I anticipate there, as much as possible, I see the judges maybe scheduling more court. But keep in mind, they also have civil responsibilities too. You still have divorce court. You still have other civil type cases that they have to take care of as well.
I'm curious, as a DA, years ago when they had jury trials, they sequestered the jury. Nowadays they don't really do that. And today with social media and everybody with the internet, so how do you, as a DA, I know they give the warning, and the judge instructs them, be sure you don't read the newspaper, listen to, but how do you address that in these days and times in the year 2021?
There's really no way to address it other than, being very circumspect in any remarks that we in the district attorney's office may make publicly about any case or to the media, with all due respect. Basically, what I say about a case is said in the courtroom, pretty much. So just being circumspect in one's remarks, trying the case in the courtroom, not in the media, you just hope that jurors, and in my experience, jurors, by far and large, follow the instructions that the judge gives them. I've never had any real difficulties of them not doing that. Now, I'm not saying that never has occurred, but I've never seen a real problem with that. The only cases in which juries have, for the most part, been sequestered are the death penalty cases in which the death penalty is being sought. Currently, the caseload is, as I assumed on January 4, there are no cases in which the death penalty is being sought. So I don't anticipate any sequestration of jurors in any cases that are currently pending.
I tell people all the time, we're blessed in the circuit to have good judges. You're familiar with all the judges. You agree with that assessment?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you, Bob.
I said, I tell people all the time, we're blessed in the circuit to have good judges. You know, you're familiar with all the judges. Do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely. We've got fantastic judges in this circuit. You know, they're all great judges. They're very well reasoned. They're doing a great job.
So, again, how soon do you think you'll have your full staff in place? I mean, like I said, you're still in the process of doing that. And like I said, you got 5 different offices. And how do you decide who goes where? Is it all about logistics, where they're from or where they're close, like the lady from Athens? I guess she's going to move to this area. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mimi Himes will be moving to this area. I don't know which county she's going to live in, you know, but she'll be working in the Wayne County office. She's moving to this area from Athens. She's going to be coming on board March 22nd. In terms of the allocation of personnel within the office, a lot of that is driven by case counts and where the cases are, the numbers of those cases, and the needs of that individual office. So that pretty much will dictate the allocation of assistant DAs within the office, and then the number of assistant DAs in the office, which is driven by case count, pretty much determines the number of support staff that's going to be within that office. Now, one thing that we've done is we've got 4 investigators on board that are currently working within the circuit, and an investigator that's working in each of our 4 offices.
What's your feeling on drug court? So many people have different opinions. Some see it as a good thing and gives people a second chance. Other people think it's just a revolving door. So where do you stand on the drug court?
Well, I think it's a good program. One has to be particular about who goes into the program. But as a program as a whole, the concept is, as an accountability court, is to try to reduce or eliminate crime by, if you eliminate the cause of that crime, drug addiction in the case of drug court, then you eliminate the crime that flows from that. So it's a good concept, a good program, and Judge Stephen Kelly is doing a fantastic job with it. Currently we have an attorney that is a contract attorney that we are having also to handle the drug court program in all 3 of the counties in this circuit in which we have it. So Susan Thornton is handling drug court in Wayne, Jeff Davis in Appling, and by doing that we have a consistency of application by having the same person handle all of that. And also having a contract attorney do that allows us to free up our full-time assistant DAs to get in the courtroom and prosecute the cases that need to be prosecuted there.
And we've had our current sheriff, Chuck Mosley, in. We had our former sheriff, John Carter, in. They talk about how bad the drug issue is in our county. What about circuit-wide, the other 5 counties? What drugs are we dealing with mostly?
Well, I mean,
it used to be meth.
Well, you see some fentanyl coming in now. That's a real problem. That we've had an inmate die from fentanyl overdose in the Glenn County jail. Person just pled guilty to that, another inmate. So fentanyl somehow got introduced in the jail and somebody died because of it. So methamphetamine's a big problem. Opioid abuse is a big problem. And I concur with you that drugs are a problem here in Wayne County. We color code our files in the DA's office by the type of the case, and our drug cases are green files. And when you visually just walking in the office without even having to look at an accounting, you can visually see the number of drug cases. There are much more green files than there are any other type of cases.
He was just joining us, Keith Higgins, the new DA's in with us. Getting towards the end, we do appreciate you coming in. I don't know if anybody's texting some questions.
Just someone says, good interview, good job. Good, Bob. Good job on the B&B show today. But I wanted to ask Keith. When you were campaigning, you had a vision for the DA's office for the 5 counties. You campaigned on that vision, and you are implementing it. Just in case people didn't know what that was, what are you doing? What changes are you making? What are you doing to make the DA's office in your vision?
Well, first of all, adding more full-time prosecutors to the office and adding the staff is part of that vision. Staying apolitical. Going with the case as the evidence leads you, and just adding a high standard of ethics in the office in terms of we've already each assistant DA that's come on board has been given a copy of the National District Attorneys Association Standards of Prosecution. They're being required to read that and sign off that they've read that, and just implementing a high level of ethics and in the office as well. Training of the assistant DAs to increase the level of prosecution as well. We've done that. We've already sent 2 of our assistant DAs off to training with regard to that, and we're doing webinar training that's being required of all of our assistant DAs, which involves the considerations ethical considerations with regard to charging decisions. A webinar coming up this month. Second webinar coming up this month that all the assistant DAs are being required to do is threat assessment with regard to bonding decisions and conditions of sentences that should be imposed in certain cases to try to keep the public safe.
Is there a state agency that y'all are answerable to?
There's really not a state agency per se that we're answerable to. There's the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, but they're more of an organization that is in a supportive role of district attorneys around the state. There's 49 different judicial circuits, 49 district attorneys, and they're more of a supportive role. They're not really oversight of us. The legislature is currently considering a bill to create a prosecution oversight committee or organization, and so if that is implemented, then there will be one.
Okay.
One final question.
Yep.
We've been, in the news lately, has been about security at the courthouse and things like that. I know you just recently got some improvements in your office approved by the county commissioners to secure your office. Tell people how important it is for security for those locations.
It's extremely important for security for those locations. In fact, since I took office, there was a situation where somebody was not particularly happy about a situation, came into our Baxley office. Now, we do have some level of security there with a lock code from our lobby area into the main office area there. But the sheriff of Appling County, Mark Melton, was gracious enough to come over and actually come in the back door of our office and be there to add security to it. So, but we also have investigators there in each of our offices now that add the security, and we're continuing to upgrade that as well. But with regard to the courthouse, it's extremely important as well to where you have 4 entrances in the courthouse here in Wayne County. I think you have 1 metal detector, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's the need to secure the judges and keep them safe as well when they're in the courthouse. You don't want a disgruntled individual about a decision that was made being able to get to somebody and cause them harm.
Do you know any of the plans for the upgrading of the security at the Wayne County Courthouse? Have you seen any of those plans yet?
I have not. I know that's an ongoing discussion, and folks are meeting, including me, meeting monthly concerning that, the plans to increase the security there at the courthouse.
Well, good. Keith Higgins, district attorney for our area, in this morning. We appreciate you very much stopping by and talking to us, and it was mainly to our thousands of listeners here in Southeast Georgia and on the internet. And we appreciate it very much, and we look forward to having you back on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, as we've had all the district attorneys for the past 30 years here on the Butch and Bob Show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Okay, Bob, is that it?
Yep.
All right, take care. Have a good day. All right, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, brought to you by Quinn & Associates, Sean O'Quinn, and by Murphy Builder Supply, Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, and First Southern Bank.
The world famous Butch and Bob Show.